I have a very special guest on the show with me today, Dr. Helen Battisti, and I had your husband Francis on with me recently. You are both, you're like the ultimate power couple, Helen. You're just like, the two of you together are such a wealth of information, and I'm so blessed to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining me.
Oh gosh, thank you for inviting us. It's really a pleasure, very much so.
It's such a joy. And you have such wonderful information on something that I'm fascinated with, that I've really become much more interested in the last few years than ever before, which is the microbiome of the gut. And can you tell me a little bit about that?
I would be happy to tell you a whole lot, and you have to be careful because I'm a retired professor. So I can do a 3-hour lecture if you let me go. Yes, but the microbiome has come into play in the recent past, and I believe the microbiome is going to lead us to much better treatment, prevention, disease processes, etc. And so the microbiome, actually the microbiota is the collection of everything that's living in our gut, because it isn't just bacteria, which is where the primary research is happening now, but we have viruses, we have protozoas, and so that research is really in its infancy. And as far as the microbiome, what that is actually the collection of all of these organisms and their genetic material. So there's actually more genetic material from these bacterium, from these protozoas, et cetera, than there is actually human DNA. So it's really, yes, it's just so fascinating.
What?
It is.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Yes, and so we have different, we have the microbiome of the skin. There's different microbiomes in the body, but the one that I focus a lot on, of course, is the gut, because I'm a registered dietitian. So I'm always looking at what are people feeding our microbiomes.
Now, what is the relevance to the microbiome, especially now in this time that we're going through?
Well, one thing that I think people don't realize is that the microbiome and the brain speak to each other. So the brain we think of as neurons, and we think of the central nervous system. And there's another system that comes from the gut, and that's the enteric nervous system. And they cross and communicate back and forth.
And that's where we get think from the gut, or, you know, when back in the day, they would say, listen to your gut. And there is a truth to that, because there really isn't a gut intelligence.
There is. And so, for example, sometimes you can walk into a situation and suddenly, literally, your gut is responding. And it makes you like pick your head up and look around and say, what's happening here? Right. And so there are, when you start to pay attention to it, you can really see where that communication is happening. Another really interesting fact is we talk about serotonin. Thanksgiving's coming, so we talk about tryptophan in our turkey especially, and it converts to serotonin in the brain, and serotonin is kind of that feel good. And so 90% though of serotonin is produced in the gut. And so when we start to just learn more and more and more about this microbiome, we really start to see how it impacts on so many things, on our moods, on our disease processes. I just sat through 2 sessions at a conference talking about the microbiome, its relationship to heart disease, and the microbiome and its relationship to cancer. And it's fascinating. And I'll just say, in its infancy. So I don't think there's a researcher out there that will tell you that we know exactly which bacterium and in what ratios we want to try to get them to, because it just isn't known yet. So it's truly a frontier and a fascinating one.
And there's so many things going on in research now with the microbiome. It's just groundbreaking. Yes. I mean, yes. For a viewer who's watching the show and maybe having gut issues, maybe with all of the stress in the environment around us at these times, I really do feel that so many people I talk to are having gut issues. What is something that someone can do that's simple, just some basic changes that maybe a viewer could start to make to improve the well-being of their gut?
We've heard a lot of probiotics.
Right.
For quite a few years, and those probiotics are important to us. Unfortunately, too many people are eating on the run and they're eating too much processed food. We know from studying fecal material, what you eat changes the percentage of microbiome bacterium. If we're eating a lot of processed foods, then unfortunately we're not feeding our gut. Not only are we not providing with the bacterium, but in addition to the probiotics, we hear now about prebiotics.
Yes.
And prebiotics are actually, in kind of a real generalized term, it's fiber. So we can put all the probiotics we want to in our gut, but if we don't feed those bacterium, they die. So if you're eating a very processed diet, there's virtually no fiber to it. Recommendations on fiber have been about 20 to 35 grams a day. I just was hearing some recent research and recommendations, it's pushing it a little bit higher. That comes from fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. And that is, sometimes I feel like a kindergartner teacher because I keep saying, oh my gosh,
vegetables, have a salad.
Oh my gosh, yeah, would you just eat them? Eat whatever else you want, but just include your fruits, vegetables, and some whole grains so that you can feed the gut.
To clobber me every night. I could see it in her eyes. She looks at me every night. I'm like, did you have a salad with that meal? She's just like, no. It's like, have a salad. And then she smothers it in ranch dressing, so I'm not sure how good that is.
But you know something, just so you know, and I you probably know this already, but what we teach our children is as much as we harp on them during their teen years, they push us away, but it comes back. Right. Once they've learned it, it comes back as they grow up.
My older son now, he'll come home to visit and he's on me about my diet. And I have a pretty clean diet, so he's taken it to the next level. So it's funny how it does sink in. Of course, the younger one isn't quite the same, but at least it's sunk in the older one.
Hopefully they'll all get there.
Yeah, they'll all get there eventually. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you being with us today.
My pleasure.
And sharing your wisdom with us. And those are great tips for everybody to just start to integrate into their life, just to use a probiotic, to eat more fiber, to exercise, things that our grandparents told us growing up. They're so simple.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
But so easy to miss in our day-to-day.
It is, and our culture makes it hard to even do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you again. And please come back again soon. I look forward to having you back on the show.
Thank you. I would love to. Thanks for the opportunity.